agenda is all about data, analytics, cloud, AI, ML, and emerging technologies that are transforming not only companies, but also entire industries and even our lives. Hi, my name is Piyush Malik, a curious mind who wears and juggles multiple hats as an engineer, a management consultant, practitioner, a builder, a thought leader, entrepreneur, and a C-suite executive. I have been in the industry helping organizations realize and navigate the value of data, analytics, applied AI, ML, and emerging technologies. I have created strategies and transformation programs that helps them compete with the digital natives. Welcome to the Digital Agenda. Today, we are joined by Dr. Anand Deshpande, founder and chairman of Persistent System, a true pioneer whose journey from a small town upbringing to building a global tech powerhouse is both inspiring and instructive. He's involved in a lot of philanthropic activities as well, and he'll have a lot of great things to share. So without much further ado, welcome, Anand. How are you doing?
Thank you, Piyush. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Really looking forward to chatting with you.
Absolutely. And we are meeting after the IIT Bay Area meetup that we had at Z21. And before that, when I visited Persist, your team gave me a warm welcome and I got a chance to meet you and your entire team. So thank you for all of what you have done for the industry as well, both in the Indo-US sector. But let's get the audience to get to know you a little bit better. Let's start at the beginning. Could you share a bit about your early life in Madhya Pradesh? And then your family upbringing and what shaped your values and ambitions? Were you a studious child? Of course, academically excelling because you were at IIT. So, and then your journey to Indiana University. So let's talk about all of that.
So yes, I grew up in Bhopal. My father worked for Bharat Heavy Electricals, and we lived in the Bale Township in Bhopal. And it was a protected environment. Everyone was an engineer. Their kids were all together. And I went to Campion School, Bhopal, which was an all-boys school in the city. And I was there from 4th to 11th. We had 11th as higher secondary at that point. And then I cleared JE and had a big rank, and I went to Kharagpur. So I joined Kharagpur in the aeronautical engineering department. Did 2 years there, and then we were very lucky. There was a new computer science department that happened while I was still in my first year, which had admissions directly in the third year. So I changed from aero to computer science and then graduated with a CS degree from Kharagpur in 1984. So 79 to 84, I was in Kharagpur for a 5-year course. At that point, that was the thing. We had 5-year courses. And then in 84, I came to the US, to Indiana University, Bloomington. Did a computer science MS Ph.D. And then in 89, I joined HP Labs for about a short period. And then I was in HP in Palo Alto for about 18 months. And then this whole home calling bugged me, and I decided to move back to India and start Persistent around in 1990.
Awesome. Campion School reminded me of the Cadbury's championship that Campion School used to participate and win a lot of times. I'm talking about my childhood days. I'm not sure if you participated in that.
There was a Campion School in Mumbai as well.
Yeah.
And many of the Campion School Mumbai was more active in the Bonvita thing than the Bhopal Campion School. It was run by the same Jesuits, I guess.
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Delhi. All throughout, and my undergrad and my postgrad as well. But after my graduation, I was a globetrotter. I took on my first job in Gujarat, Gandhinagar with Tata Telecom, and then never really worked in Delhi. I was always on the road, and after 40 different countries, now I'm here. I've been in Silicon Valley for 30 years, but during that time, I was with global roles, both with PwC and then with IBM, and that made me travel a lot. Of course, I'm not a billion miler like you, but certainly I've had my fair share of travel as well. Let's switch the gears and talk about what you took off from Silicon Valley and into India.
So I was not married when I moved back to India. In fact, I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, so I met her for the first time a week after I got back, and then we were engaged in 3 days after that.
Oh my goodness!
And we got married in 5 weeks.
Oh my goodness!
Related story on this, which is kind of interesting. What happened was that I worked in HP till October 1990, and returned back, got married on 5th of December. So I filed my taxes as married rather than a single individual, and I got a decent money back from the income tax department. And actually, that was the main funds that I had for funding the company.
Oh, wonderful. What a story. Awesome. Awesome. Great to know that. All right, great. So, were there any mentors that you met in the US that shaped
Yes.
your initial approach as you were founding? And I know you used your parents' help to register the company initially, right?
Yes. Yes, so what happened was, I had sort of, I was in the Bay Area in
Mm-hmm.
89, 90, and in 1990, N. Vittal, who was a secretary,
Mm-hmm.
Department of Electronics, visited the Bay Area. Bay Area used to have a precursor to the TIE, used to be an organization called SIPA,
Mm-hmm.
Silicon Valley Indian Professional Organization
Mm-hmm.
Association. And Vittal came and talked to that group, and he talked a lot about having to set up this stuff in India, and he was looking for entrepreneurs to come back. And he mentioned that there was something going on in Pune where he was going to set up a software technology park. My
Mm-hmm.
parents had moved to Pune by then, so I was intrigued by the idea. I wanted to go back, and it just seemed to all make sense. And then I decided that let me take this opportunity because at that point, and even now, a lot of people who come to the US sort of get trapped in the plus one syndrome, right? So you always do something and then plus one and plus one. I decided that instead of getting stuck in it, let me first go back. And of course, if it doesn't work out, I would have thought other things. But the shot to take a shot at entrepreneurship and going back to India, the earlier I did, the less the better it would have been, or more easier it would have been, which was the case. Meaning, when I returned back, I had limited savings. I did have mentors, like you asked. So there was a fellow called Mrinal Sattawala.
Mm-hmm.
He used to work for Patni at that point, and he had come to the Bay Area to set up
Mm-hmm.
Patni's office in the Bay Area. So he was able to guide me a little bit about how the India offshore business model, what do you do, and how
Mm-hmm.
it works, and what kind of facilities you might get. I
Mm-hmm.
must say that I was benefited a great deal by a lot of the friends from the database community.
Mm-hmm.
I did a database PhD in 84 to 89. And while I was doing my PhD, I attended several database conferences, the Sigmod Pods, VLDVs.
Mm-hmm.
And I met the friends like Mohan, Umesh Dayal, and
Mm-hmm.
many other people who were all very well-known established database people. And I found that getting to use them to network was my first set of calling cards for my customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because, trying to sell to them. So the name persistent also comes from databases. So the intention was to sort of work on, and my thesis was on query processing and query optimization of complex objects.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those things where, this is a problem that is still, you can still go to a company and say, I can improve your queries, and there's work to do. So at that point, of course, there was a lot of object databases and other things coming in. And I was able to get some work from customers very early on through the network that I created out of the database community, and also some other friends that came and helped out in the early years. So your
Yeah.
first few customers are always the hard ones to get through. But once you get them rolling, then of course, then you use the network in other ways.
Absolutely. Did you ever use your mentors as a wedge to enter any big accounts or the first few sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was happening was that I was asking my friends to introduce me to CTOs in database companies.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the CTOs in database companies, and there were lots of them at that point, right? Lots of object database companies, object relational, all of those kinds of companies. And I was able to get introductions to VP engineering or CTOs in these companies through very warm introductions from people like Mohan and others who have pretty good network of their own, and people respect them in the data community. So I
Mm-hmm.
was able to enter through a very technical, this guy understands databases and optimization and query processing, very tech kind of a discussion in the early days. And the first few projects that we got were all in that category broadly. Though, of course, you talk what you say and then you do what they ask you to do. So it's a
Yeah.
bit of that.
Yeah.
But
And so
still,
that was a services entry point. At that time, you did not have a product.
no, we didn't have a product, and it was not viable. We had no money. As I said, I bootstrapped the company out of the funds that I got from my tax return. So I had about 2,000, 2 lakh rupees is my investment that went into the company.
Mm-hmm.
2 lakh rupees at that point would have been about 8,000 to $10,000. Because,
Mm-hmm.
it was 18 rupees when I returned back, but it became 25 rupees after the devaluation, after Manmohan Singh became the finance minister. So it was a combination of those two. And it was about roughly, I would say $7,000 to $8,000 is what my investment was in the company when we started it. So we had limited funds, and India was a very difficult place to do business in many ways, right? Meaning it was hard to find uh, computing facilities were hard to get. We did not have enough access to communication facilities. Networking was very difficult.
Yeah.
Telephone lines, I'm sure you're aware, you work for Tata Communications. So it would take 6 months to get a phone line. So
More
the
than
whole
that, more than that, 10 to 12 years in the residential sector. And that's a story Sam Pitroda talks about as well. So,
right. So it was tough, and working in that category, trying to build products from India where the market was never in India. Government had created these schemes specifically for export. So it was mostly services in the early years, and that seemed kind of a least resistance path as well. And we were working with product companies building products,
mhm.
but we were doing services for them from India. So even though we were building products or following the product methodology, most of the work from India was on behalf of someone else. So someone had chartered us to do that work.
Got it. So engineer mindset to a sales mindset as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
As an entrepreneur, everybody who starts a company has to sell. So how tough was it for you to change that light bulb in your head?
Well, two things. One is there was no choice, right? So if you are selling, then you have to sell. The second thing that was true that my first many customers were all engineers as well. So we were establishing credibility using the engineer discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and then picking up small amounts of work, which was, as a consequence of the fact that, okay, you seem trustworthy enough and the risk seems to be low. Yes, I could do this myself, but it'll take me a few years. It will not be high on my list of priorities. If you do it for me now at this price, I can use it. So it was mostly that kind of a sale. So it was an engineer-oriented sale. But very soon I realized that I actually enjoyed the whole process of selling. And I sort of got pretty good at it, actually. So I would plan the sale deal, what is going to happen, why would people buy from us, and things like that, and make sure that, say the right things and convince people of the right kind of things to get things done. So sales is very important. And I got into it without really having any other choice. But having jumped into it, I feel I got good at it, and I recommend this to everyone. And I think people should be a little bit more thoughtful about how the buying process happens, so that helps in deciding, how to present yourselves when you are in a sales situation.
Great. And a lot of these days, entrepreneurs as well are using executive coaches
Yes.
to help in areas where they find themselves lacking. So, did you use the services of any executive coach at that time in the early
No,
days?
not so much at that time, though I had lots of mentors and friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I also agree that there are coaches can play an important role. I have deliberately used certain kinds of friends and mentors to get this to happen. Now, I have shared, I don't know if I should, let me give you an example of how I look at mentors and how I classify mentors as such. And I'm going to use a little bit of Hindu mythology as an example, but we can translate that for the
Please.
other audience. So in India, what I believe is that you need 4 kinds of mentors that you need to develop.
Mm-hmm.
The first is the Eklavya Dronacharya mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept here is Dronacharya was the guru, Eklavya was the mentee, and the mentee did not, he was following the guru, but the guru did not know that Eklavya was his mentee.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this model of where you can have Dronacharya mentors, meaning mentors who don't know you are being mentored by them. But with Twitter and all the other things that we have, YouTube, you can follow mentors very easily, and you should track your mentors, and you can be selective about what parts of your mentors you want to track. So that's one category of mentors. Second category is what I call so in most Hindu homes, we have a place of worship, a local temple at home,
Mm-hmm.
usually a small one. And we usually have about half a dozen deities in that temple.
Mm-hmm.
These are typically things like Ganpati, which is the god for knowledge. You have Lakshmi, which would be goddess for wealth. Saraswati would be for knowledge
Learning.
and things, learning. And then you'll have Shiva and a bunch of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's about half a dozen of them. You should have half a dozen mentors who come from different aspects of your life. And the goal about having a temple at home is that every day you're supposed to tell the gods that things are well or whatever is happening. So when you need help, you can get the help. So like this, you need to keep your mentors updated with what is going on, because if they know the context, only then they can give you advice when you need them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the second category of mentors. So I recommend to everyone that you should have your half a dozen who are for different kinds of things. So I would have my professor who I work very closely with, a guy called Jose Blakely. He used to be at Seattle in Microsoft. I would go to his house every trip I came and ask him for a dump on what's happening on technology. I had another friend called Murli who I would work with, take him for a walk every Sunday, once every Sunday that I was in the Bay Area. And we would talk about my life, his life, what is common, what's not. So get a little bit of that. So we had Professor Phatak in IIT Bombay. So I had like a few mentors that I would use for various kinds of things.
Beautiful.
The
Beautiful.
third category of mentors is what I call the Narsimha mentor. The Narsimha mentor is the following. I'm sure you're aware of this story. There was a king called Hiranyakashipu who had a son called Prahlad. And Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu had all kinds of boons with him. So he could not be killed in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, and this and that, inside the house, outside the house, not killed by a human, not killed by an animal. So he had created lots of constraints for how he became immortal by asking all these kinds of boons, right? And he was starting to harass his son. And son was a Bhakt of the Vishnu who would have been somebody on your Dev Panchayat, which would be your temple at home.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to get in a Narasimha, who was a very specialized mentor. He was neither human nor an animal. He was neither in the morning nor in the evening, inside, outside. So he mashed all those constraints and basically killed Hiranyakashipu. So when you have a complex problem that needs a very specialized mentor, then your category of regular mentors are the ones who will lead you to these kinds of mentors. So if you have to deal with some very complicated issues, legal or whatever else, you need to bring in someone who is an expert. But you can't have an expert as your daily mentor, because cost too much, he'll basically eat you up, right? So you want to have that mentor as something different. And the fourth category of mentor, which I talk about, is the Dharma Yuddha. So if you're going to have the Dharma Yuddha, you need to bring Krishna to your fight, right? And there's another interesting story here that Krishna and Arjun had a very interesting relationship. Krishna actually joined Arjun on the Mahabharata war field. He could have easily given him advice from his room and said, okay, this is what it is. But he showed up there. So the mentor actually likes to be involved in the mentee's actions and activities. So they are vested interests. We feel good about helping someone when you get involved in it. You don't want to just give advice and go away. So you want to be part of the action. So like this, you have these four kinds of mentors, which I really believe everyone should do. And you should have your own category of 6, 7 mentors that are different aspects of your life, and you should keep them posted regularly. And then you should have many of these that are online that you can follow, and you should have your own plan saying, I follow this for these guys, and I follow Naval for this, and follow this guy for whatever.
Very
Sorry.
nice, very well articulated, and in fact, combining with the human, it's not only Hindu mythology and scriptures that you have brought in; it's the human psychology that you need to have a board of directors as mental board of directors, right? As personal board of directors who, and I ascribe to that as well. But translating from the human Hindu mythology, it literally brings alive for a lot of my listeners, and hopefully for the next generation. So that is a perfect segue to talk about your work with philanthropy and education, and from Persistent to the Asra Foundation. Tell us more about your what is keeping you active and motivated to wake up every day these days.
Yes. So as I said, I started Persistent in 1990. In 2019, I was almost 30 years in the business, and I decided to move on from being CEO to being chairman. And that allowed me to do more things. And I reached a point where, I was nearing 60, and I had worked in the same thing for about 30 years. And I was getting to a point where I said, yeah, I could do this for the next few years, but I don't see this for the next 30 years. So let me move on and look at what I should be thinking about for the next 30 years, rather than doing some small things here and there. So I have a mission to be impactful and long-term. So I picked 3 broad areas in which I'm spending time right now. One bucket is around entrepreneurship, and I'll explain why and what I do there. The second bucket, as I said, I've been working in the data community, so a little bit about data, healthcare, AI, science, bio, that kind of a bucket. And the third one, I'm very fascinated about education, careers, managing careers, things of that kind. So those are my 3 buckets in which I'm spending time right now. So let me sort of peel the onion a little bit more. So on the first one, when I talk about entrepreneurship, I work in 2 segments. One segment is where we call nano entrepreneurs. And I'll explain the context of why I'm into this thing. And the reality is that I live in India right now, and we have 25 million people at every age group in India. Every age in India. So to say every 25 years or 30 years. So we have 1.3 billion people, half of them are below the age of 35. So you calculate it whichever way, you have more than 25 million people. And we need to create 15 to 18 million jobs every year. And so job creators is the key to creating jobs. And we need to help job creators to happen. In India, again, if you look at the demographics of companies, 98% of all businesses in India are what you call SMBs, so really small, medium businesses. Of those SMBs, which in India is up to 250 crores, okay, which would be 0.5 billion rupees. So it's pretty large number. So most companies are actually much smaller than that. So they are more like 10 million rupees is what 1 crore is, right? So that's sort of where most of the companies end up. And government programs tend to be for that whole group of SMEs. So they don't really work on the nano entrepreneurs. So I have a program that I have designed. It's my family philanthropy, personal philanthropy. I have a 40 people team now for the last 12, 13 years. And we implemented and templated everything that nano entrepreneurs need so that they don't fail. And we have about 410,000 businesses in the network already. And the aspiration is to get it to, a few million.
Great. And this is only for India, or are you planning to scale it?
Right now, it's India only. It can be scaled other places, but you have to be nuanced about every region. So we worry about compliance, access to regulations, and a whole bunch of things which are very specific to a region. So a little bit a regional thing is there. It can be modified to other regions, but I'll have to do some work which we haven't done. But we have no shortage of these kinds of small businesses in India right now. So I'm just staying focused on that.
That's
the
great.
Second program I run is a program I call Second Orbit. And the concept here is that business growth is a sequence of S curves. You do something, you see growth, and you flatten out. And then you have to change orbit. And unfortunately, what works in one orbit actually doesn't work in the next orbit. So what got you there will not get you to the next level. And this happens at every change of orbit. And at Persistent IC, we are in our 6th orbit. But the transition from the first orbit to the second orbit is very hard for the founders. It's where the founders sort of include other people to be in the founding team. In the first orbit, it's only the founder, and their goal is to do product market fit, so respond to whatever comes in. By the time you're at the top of your first orbit, your business is stable, it's doing relatively well, but it doesn't scale anymore because all what you could do on your own, you've already done. There's nothing more that you can do that changes the game. So that's the challenge. And that's sort of where I have a course now. I teach a course once a year. We meet once a month for a year, and I have a whole program on how do companies scale at that point. And this program has done quite well. I have 5 cohorts right now across in different categories. Each cohort is about 20 to 25 companies. So about roughly 100 companies in the network that we are observing on how to help companies scale. Now, the number at which these are typically in India context is about 20 crore rupees, about $5 million to $6 million is sort of the US equivalent of a startup in India. A US business, forget about startups, you'll get to $5-6 million on the founders team, but then getting to 50 and 100 is a very different ballgame. So that transition is what I have been spending time. So that's my second orbit program.
Great, great. And you also talked about education.
Yeah, so let me explain that as well. So I got involved in a bunch of IITs and other institutions to be on their chairman boards and other things. I've been a little bit concerned about 2 aspects of it. So one set is that when I work at Persistent as somebody who was hiring a lot of people, including talking to a lot of senior folks, I found that in India especially, we find a lot of people who have, you meet somebody, they'll tell you I have 20 years of experience, I worked 6 years here, 5 years there, 7 years there. But if you kind of push them a little bit and say, okay, 20 years, yes, but what has that 20 years done to you? Who are you because of that 20-year experience, right? And then people are not able to give any good answer for it. And they're always saying, I've always done what the company asked me to do. But they're not able to identify who they are and what their brand is. How do they see themselves and what is their purpose and all that. So I have a program which we call Managing Careers, and I have a framework for that. Very briefly, I'll give you the framework as, in the first 10 years, I tell companies that individuals that they should focus on learning and networking. In the second 10 years, I encourage people to sort of be good at something specific, not just be a generalist at that time. 20 years of experience with just general things is not very good. By then, you should be good at something that you can say and the world should say it. So you should have a personal brand around that. In the third 10 years, I tell people is that, you kind of max out, or your corner office will happen in your early 50s at the sort of end of your 30-year regime or whatever else. So from 20 to 30, you need to know where you are going and then plan a way to get to where you are going to be, what your ultimate goal is. I say this to people who have completed 20 years rather than those who are starting out. Because if I'm a fresher, I don't know where I'll land. It's too much to think that far. But if I'm already 20 years into the business, I know where the organization is and what is my ultimate corner office and how do I plan to get to that. And then finally, when you get past that, you have to think about how will you mentor people and create the next level of leaders. And then when you retire, how do you set yourself up for retirement? So that's the program I run called Managing Careers program. And there are a bunch of other things that I've been working on in terms of education, better courses. How do we look at, I'm part of a bunch of committees right now and trying to think about how to create more interdisciplinarity on the course. How do you bring continuous learning into practice in various places and things like that.
This is very, very impactful work that you're doing. In fact, a lot more today I've uncovered than I knew about you earlier, Anand. So thanks for sharing. And I would say, what can my viewers and listeners do to help you? And what would be the message that you would want to send out?
Okay, so let me give you the third thing that I'm working on where I can get some help, which would be me. So I got involved in this in a cancer community because of family reasons. And I realized that in India, even though, or across the world, Indians, we are almost 1/6 of the world population, or however you look at it. But our medicines are not coming about Indians. So we are using other people's data for our cures. And this is true for cancer. So cancer, you will find that you need to find some biomarkers, and those biomarkers are coming from research studies done abroad in the US mainly, or Europe. So we need our own data sets for our own people. So I set up, along with a bunch of cancer people, something called the India Cancer Genome Atlas. It's called ICGA Foundation. And the idea here is that we should build a data set for Indian cancers, or cancers for Indian people, so that when somebody is trying to find cures, they look at our data. And if they use our data, we will have cures for our people. So that's one program I set up. And that's where I'm trying to do some fundraising as well, because the goal of what we are trying to do is to make this data available through open access, which means the data should be available freely to anybody who wants to do research on this topic. I'm not saying open source, but the data should be, you submit a proposal, and if the proposal is accepted, you get access to the data.
Got it.
And for that, there's no business model. So it becomes philanthropy supported, and we need to find ways to collect that data set. And I'm doing something similar on the diabetes front as well. So I've been working with a group called RSSDI, which is the Research Society for Study of Diabetes in India. And here again, it's the same problem. We in India don't know what our problems are, and we need to find cures and solutions for our people. And it's high time we did it ourselves rather than depend on somebody else doing it. So I'm working with a community of people where I'm interacting with 5 to 6 different communities. One is clinicians, the other one is computer science researchers in India, third is biology researchers, fourth is philanthropy, and fifth is government. And there's a lot to do here, and I can take any amount of help that I can get on this topic for sure. I think the US, of course, is well set up, but Indians in the US will also benefit from us finding India-oriented cures, because some of the DNA genetic kind of diseases or the impacts of various biomarkers or our food habits and all that might have a consequence on how we respond to some of these diseases as well.
Absolutely. I think we could do a detailed discussion on that itself as a topic at some future time. But next time you are around in the Bay Area, maybe I'm assuming you are collaborating with Stanford and hospitals here in the US, but there are certain...
Not as much. No, we are not collaborating a whole lot with Stanford and others yet. I have met some of them in the past, but most of the work that we are doing at the moment is... so yeah, I mean, for the US cancer thing, we are working with TCGA. This is the Cancer Genome Atlas. And on the diabetes side, we have a few doctors in Harvard that we have collaborated with, but most of the work is happening locally in India. Unfortunately, the diabetes problem is a much harder problem than the cancer problem, because it's a long gestation, long period, and it's a lifestyle and longitudinal disease in some sense. And everyone, to some extent, responds differently. So I have not figured out exactly how to address this problem, but at least I'm learning at the moment.
We should definitely have a follow-on discussion, because there are organizations like API, the American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, and I've been volunteering for American Society of Engineers of Indian Origin and TIE, and some of these organizations can bring this. What you are doing is very noble, and this needs a little bit more collaboration and spreading the word. So happy to be your volunteer, and I would follow up on that on a separate note.
Yes, absolutely. And just to give you a link, the work we are doing at cancer stuff is under ICGA, India Cancer Genome Atlas. So icga.in, and you should be able to see. We have a conference.
We'll put that in the show notes, and definitely the message will go out. So all the great work. To wrap all of this up, wonderful conversation today. What would be one last message that you want to give for the young folks who are just entering the workforce? Because that's something which ignites me and makes me passionate about serving the community. So please.
Right. So I tell people who are young and starting out that, I mean, the world that we saw in our lifetime is going to be very different from the one that they are going to see. I think everyone is going to get fired in their job 5-7 times. You're going to see a gig kind of a career. You'll have many different things you will do all along your life. So it's not going to be a linear path that young people have to take, but that can be exciting and challenging as well. So what should you do now so that you can be successful in this kind of a career? So I give 3 things that I would say. One is focus on good discipline and habits, because that will help you in terms of whatever you want to do in future. Second, learn to learn, because we don't know what might come. So the earlier you figure out your learning style, and everyone learns very differently, and learning how do you learn is a very important skill to acquire. And the third thing is learn to network. I think the more people you know and how you work with other people and all that stuff, the network that you build is actually what's going to take you a long way. So those are the 3 things that I tell a lot of people on this, and that is what I give people in terms of their first 10 years of the career that I share.
Yeah. Wonderful. Dr. Deshpande, this has been an amazing discussion. Thank you for sharing your remarkable journey and vision. Your story is definitely going to be very, very useful to our listeners, and your the power of curiosity, perseverance, and giving back. That's your motto, and we wish you and your companies and your philanthropic operations great success. And from me personally, namaste. Thank you very much, and hope to see you very soon.
Yes, thank you, Piyush. Enjoyed talking to you. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye now.